How's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula, and welcome to another Pokemon Go deep dive video. Today we're going to take a look at the upcoming poison and water type Pokemon Toxapex. This Pokemon is looking to be one of the best Great League Pokemon you can have, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I'm going to be explaining all of this in today's video, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. So in the next in-game event in Pokemon Go, Niantic is going to be introducing a new Pokemon to the game. This Pokemon, Marini, evolves into Toxapex, which, based on its stats, typing, and moves, is looking to be one of the top Great League Pokemon when it's released. The top of the Great League meta are full of Pokemon that would struggle against Toxapex, and very few Pokemon will counter it. This Pokemon has a unique type combination of poison and water, which is going to be really strong against most fire types, rock types, bug types, and fairy types. It has a few weaknesses that you will want to watch out for, including electric type, ground type, and psychic type attacks, but it will be resistant to bug type, fairy type, fighting type, fire type, ice type, poison type, steel type, and water type attacks. The amount of resistances are insane. Not only is this one of the bulkiest Pokemon for the Great League, it is also really hard to take down with super effective attacks. Now speaking of bulk, Toxapex has one of the highest defense stats in the game. It has a base attack stat of 114, a base defense stat of 273, and a base stamina stat of 137. This Pokemon is an absolute tank. It may not have a lot of health compared to other Pokemon, but it has an insane amount of defense that will rival pretty much any bulky Pokemon. Toxapex is going to stir up the Great League with these stats, but it's really because these stats are paired up with some extremely pesky moves. Toxapex has the fast attack Poison Jab and Bite, and the charge attacks Gunk Shot, Sludge Wave, and Brine. Now out of all these moves, Poison Jab, Sludge Wave, and Brine are going to be the ideal setup. Toxapex with these moves has a ton of offensive pressure. Poison Jab is one of the best fast attacks in the game, as it generates a ton of energy while dealing high damage. Pair it up with Brine and Sludge Wave, and you will also add a ton of shield pressure on top of it. Now, earlier when this Pokemon was first announced, it actually had Muddy Water instead of Brine. The difference between these moves are minimal, but it seems like having Brine instead of Muddy Water was a slight nerf. However, it's not too different. Muddy Water is not a great charge attack by any means, it was just the water type attack for type coverage, and Brine serves the same function. Now, these moves are not the primary strength of this Pokemon. Toxapex really stands out because of its bulk and type advantages against most Pokemon. You really cannot discount the sheer number of resistances that this Pokemon has. It can really draw out plenty of battles and force your opponent to use too many resources just to bring it down. What's important to note regarding the bulk of this Pokemon is that it is high enough where Toxapex could survive even hard-hitting super effective charge attacks. Barely any charge attack will be able to one-shot this Pokemon, which will allow you to hold off on using shields if you have to. Moves like Earthquake, Psychic, and Zap Cannon are all moves that will be survivable by Toxapex even though they are super effective, depending of course on which Pokemon is using it. Now, despite all of these good qualities, it still has vulnerabilities you will want to watch out for. The Pokemon that will give Toxapex trouble include Registeel, Trevenant, Skarmory, Cofagrigus, Toxicroak, and Umbreon. But in spite of this, you will pretty much have the advantage against every other Pokemon in a one-on-one battle. Thus, the best thing you can do is to pair this Pokemon with a solid team of counters to those that counter it. I imagine it would perform really well if it is paired up with Pokemon like Galarian Stunfisk and Medicham. Both of these would complement Toxapex really well and would cover a lot of types that you would come up against. This is similar to how you build Great League teams around other tanks. Approach team building around Toxapex like you would Defense Form Deoxys, Lickitung, and Mandibuzz. Have type coverage Pokemon with a lot of well-rounded stats and moves to back up Toxapex. You will most certainly win more matches this way. The strategy behind using this Pokemon is that you will want to handle more than one opponent, and thanks to its bulk, that shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, very few specific Pokemon will be able to take it on, but plenty of other Pokemon will struggle against it. The best way to think about Toxapex is that it is an anti-Azumarill of sorts. A lot of Pokemon that are weak against Azumarill may be strong against Toxapex, but some of the Pokemon that are strong against Azumarill may struggle. On top of that, Toxapex itself is a direct counter to Azumarill. It resists pretty much every attack in Azumarill's arsenal while dealing super effective damage with its poison type attacks. Overall, I'm pretty excited about trying out this Pokemon. I do think it will have an immediate impact once it's introduced, and most players will likely either run Toxapex or run a team that counters it. Regardless, I do like that Niantic is continuing to introduce Pokemon that are good for PvP, because I do think the longevity of this game will come down to how good the Go Battle League currently is. One of the best ways you can assure that is by having a very diverse meta, which is full of various Pokemon that any player can use. Now, one final note regarding Toxapex before I close this video. It should be noted that this Pokemon is almost exclusively locked in for the Great League. It unfortunately doesn't have high enough stats to be viable for the Ultra League, and it for sure will see zero play in the Master League. For raid battles, the situation isn't any different. If you're looking to use a poison type Pokemon for raids, Toxapex will be near the bottom of the list when it comes to ideal raid attackers of this type. However, in spite of all of this Pokemon is still extremely good for the Great League. It will most certainly be among the tankiest, and it has enough all-around power where it will make an impact on the current meta. Time will tell if it will be as impactful as, let's say, Walrein was when it received Icicle Spear, but I do think there's a lot of potential for this Pokemon, and I'm excited to try it out myself. But in any case, that's going to be it for this deep dive video. Let me know down below what you think about Toxapex. Is this a Pokemon that you plan to use for the Great League? Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and let's have a great discussion. Also, I'm sure you figured it out by now, but I'm really struggling on how you pronounce this Pokemon's name. So if you happen to know the correct pronunciation, then feel free to educate me down below as well. And if you ended up enjoying this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then be sure to check out the links in the description below. For all of my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. But yeah, that's going to be it. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I will catch you all later.